so many things. Think about it. So we are using our smartphones for calls and messages. Then we are using computers for studying and working. We are also doing shopping online, and even our banks are working online. So much of our daily life is connected with the digital world. And because of all of this, we are keeping a lot of our personal and important information on these digital platforms. But just like in the physical world, there are people in the digital world who want to steal and misuse all your information, and they may want to steal your money, your identity, and even want to harm you in other ways. So this is where cybersecurity comes into play. Cybersecurity is our way of defending ourselves against these peoples who we might call hackers or adversaries or malicious actors. So it is like a strong wall that protects all our information and activities in our digital world. With good cybersecurity, we can use all our digital devices and the internet safely. We can even share our information without worrying about it being stolen or misused. So, cybersecurity is crucial for the safe and smooth running of our lives and our society in this digital age. It is something that we all must understand and practice in our day-to-day life. So, in this course, we will learn about how we can do this, right? So, we are going to learn about how we can make our cyber world a safe place for all of us. So now, to give you all a better understanding of the importance of security, let me talk about some real world incidents where cybersecurity was breached in the recent time. So these are the cases where the defenses were not strong enough and people faced problems. Incident happened in 2020 with a company called SolarWinds, American company. It's a very huge IT company which provides software to many businesses around it. So the hackers managed to break into their system and put malicious code in one of their software updates. So this allowed the hackers to gain access to the systems of the companies that use the software which is provided by SolarWinds. So the hackers could see and take any information they wanted from these companies. This incident affected thousands of businesses worldwide and even some parts of the American government. And another incident, which occurred, I guess, in 2017, was WannaCry ransomware attack. So basically, ransomware is a type of malicious program that hackers use to lock up your computer files and then unlock them. So in a ransomware attack, what they do is they gain access to your computer and they encrypt all your files, and then you cannot see what all information you had on your own computer, and then you have to pay money. It's basically like kidnapping, and like how in real world somebody kidnaps someone and asks for ransom money. So ransomware attack is kind of like that. So in the WannaCry attack, this ransomware spread across computers in over 150 countries. It affected hospitals, businesses, and even individuals who could no longer access their files unless they paid money. So see how much importance it is. Like, for example, you are running a hospital and the digital files where all the medical information belonging to your patient is encrypted by the hackers. Now the doctors do not have access any longer to the past medical history of the patient. So again, the cybersecurity comes into play even in medical field there. So these are just two examples, but there have been many such incidents in recent years. They remind us of the importance of security. They even show us how much damage can be done when our digital defenses are not strong enough. Cybersecurity is not about big companies only. It is also about you and me using our devices safely. So a common incident that many of us may face or might have already faced in our lives is phishing. So phishing is when someone sends you a message or an email pretending to be a trusted company or a friend and tricks you into sharing your personal information. So how they do it is they might also ask you to click on a link which they sent in an email, and then make you download a file that can steal information from your device. So basically, each of these incidents teach us valuable lessons. So SolarWind tell us that even big and powerful organizations like SolarWinds need to be careful about cybersecurity. You cannot be lethargic or careless. Then WannaCry reminds us that a small piece of malicious software can cause worldwide global problems. And then the phishing incidents, they remind us to be aware and careful about what we are doing on our devices. So as we go on with the course, we will learn about how we can protect ourselves from these kind of incidents. We will also learn about what we can do to build strong walls of security around our digital lives. So now that we have seen some examples of security incidents, let us discuss some of the most common types of cyber threats which exist in our digital world. Understanding these threats is the first step to protecting ourselves from them. So the first type of cyber threat which we are gonna discuss is malware. So you can think of malware as a harmful piece of software, like a bad program that damages your computer or your smartphone. There are many types of malware, or you might have heard about a popular ones. For example, a virus which can copy or replicate itself and destroy files on your computer. So what this does is it disrupts all the functioning, the normal functioning which happens on your digital devices. Then there is a ransomware, which we have already touched upon in the last slide. It is like a digital kidnapper. It like I'm talking about ransomware, right? So it locks away your files and demands a ransom to release them. So ransomware is also a type of malware. Then moving on, the next threat which we have is phishing. So we have also have discussed phishing in the last slide. So just to remind you back, so in phishing, someone tricks you into clicking a malicious harmful link, and how he does is he act as your bank or your friend and then send you a mail or a message. And what is their goal? To fool you into clicking a link or downloading a file that can steal information from your device. So it is like a digital con artist. Then the third cyber threat which we all should be aware about is denial of service attack, also known as DOS attack. So sorry guys, the network failed. Uh, Am I audible? Can someone put it in the chat? Yes, no. Okay, okay, got it. Thank you, Raghavendra. Let me again share the screen. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so as the term malware suggests, it is an abbreviation for malicious software. The name itself hints at what it does. So basically, a malware is essentially a rogue program, which, upon gaining access to your devices, can inflict serious harm. So malware comes in various shapes and sizes. There is a vast array of different types, each with its unique characteristics and modes of operation. However, today we will be focusing on two of the most popular ones, like viruses and ransomware. So let us first discuss viruses. So a computer virus, much like a biological virus, has the ability to replicate and copy itself and spread. It can move from one part of your computer system to another and even jump across to other connected computers. The impacts of a virus infection can range from mild, such as slowing down your computer, to severe, like destroying your entire data. So one infamous example of a virus is the I love you virus, which wreaked havoc globally in the year 2000. So what happened was millions of computers were affected, and all of this lead to significant data loss and economic damage throughout the world. Then the second type of malware, which I want to discuss, is ransomware. So once again, we have already talked about ransomware in our previous slides. Let me remind you again, the operation of ransomware can be likened to a digital hijacking. So it basically invades your computer system, encrypts your files, then essentially locks up your file, and then demands a ransom to restore your access. So one notable instance of ransomware that you may remember from our earlier discussion in the last slide is WannaCry. So malware, whether it is a virus or a ransomware, can infiltrate our devices in various ways. So it might be hiding in an email attachment that appears harmless. It could also be lurking in the background where when you are downloading a file or an application from a dubious source. So yeah. So for example, on Android, when we are not downloading the app from the usual Play Store and we are directly downloading .apk file from somewhere on the internet, it usually shows us some warning message. So it is because such APK files can be phishing links. So given this threat, the question now arises that how do we guard our systems against malware? So one of the most effective ways is the use of antivirus software. So think of antivirus software as the digital equivalent of a healthcare professional whose job is to diagnose and treat ailments in your computer. So it is very crucial that we have to regularly update our antivirus software because the world of malware is continuously evolving and the new threats are appearing each and every day. However, relying solely on software for protection is not sufficient. We must also be vigilant and cautious in our online activities. So we should avoid opening email attachments from unknown senders. Then we should be concerned about from where we are downloading our files and apps. Then we should prefer trusted vendors, websites, and online stores. So in conclusion, though malware poses a substantial threat to all of us, we are not defenseless. Through the combination of robust and solid antivirus software and mindful online behavior, we can secure our devices. So once again, we have to remember that in the world of cybersecurity, awareness and caution is our best defense. Then we are gonna look at few other kind of malware in the next slide, namely Trojans and worms. You must have heard of, some of you might have heard of these things. So yeah, building upon what we discussed about malware, let us now turn our attention to two types of cyber threats, namely Trojans and worms. So first, let's talk about Trojans. So the name Trojan basically originated from the famous Greek myth of the Trojan horse. So some of you who might have been interested in history might know of the Trojan horse incident. Basically, it is a actual, some believe that it is an actual history incident, some believe it is a myth, like just myth of the Greek mythology, like Thor and all those things. So yeah, so what happens is that the name Trojan basically originated from the Greek myth of Trojan horse. In the world of cybersecurity, how does it relate? That it operates in a similar deceptive fashion. So you see, a Trojan is a malicious program which pretends to be a legitimate program. So it tricks users into inviting it into their own computers, much like the Greeks tricked the Trojans into bringing the wooden horse into their city. So if you are interested about the Trojan history, what happened was the Trojan was a wooden horse, and inside the wooden horse were the enemy soldiers. So the enemy soldiers, basically the Greek soldiers, were hidden inside the wooden horse, and they had to enter the enemy fort. So the enemy did not know. He just thought that it is a wooden horse which is being presented to him as a present or a gift. So he let the horse in, and once he let the horse in, the Greek soldiers who were present inside the body of the wooden horse, they take the body. Now it can delete your data, it can modify your files, it can steal sensitive information, or even create a backdoor into your system. So the backdoor is basically what an attacker use to gain access to your computer, to gain access to the remote control over your computer. So a prominent example of a Trojan is the emoted banking Trojan. So initially, it was designed to steal banking credentials, but it gradually, over a period of time, evolved to also install other malware onto infected systems. So it basically caused considerable financial damage globally before it was finally taken down. So that's all about Trojans. Let us now discuss worms. So a worm is a standalone malware program that replicates itself in order to spread to other computer. So unlike viruses, it does not need to attach itself to an existing program or say require a human intervention to spread. Worms can cause damage by consuming bandwidth or overloading web servers. So let me give you one of the most notorious examples of a worm known as configure worm. So what this worm did was it infected millions of computers in over 200 countries way back in 2008. So exploiting a weakness in the Microsoft Windows. The configure worm was so prolific that it had a global task force working on its containment. So now what can we do to defend against Trojans and worms? So just like how we discussed about the other types of malware, a good defense starts with a reliable antivirus software, which is regularly updated. Most antivirus software that are designed to detect Trojans, worms, and other forms of malware. But we should also be careful that again what I said in our last slide about what we download and what we install on our computers. So remember that Trojans often rely on deception. They might appear to be useful software, say like they might appear as an interesting software. So just beware of don't be deceived by the Trojans. Then always download software from trusted sources. So be cautious with your email attachments, even from people you know. And remember, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So lastly, keep your system and software updated. So many Trojans and worms exploit vulnerabilities in our outdated system, just like the configure worm did way back then. Then regular updates can help these vulnerabilities and protect your computers. So in conclusion, Trojans and worms pose a significant threat, but with awareness, caution, and the right protective measures, we can significantly reduce our risk of falling victim to all of these malicious programs. Let us now discuss another type of cyber threat, which is quite popular, quite prevalent, and impacts many of us on a day-to-day basis. This is the practice known
Sir,
as
sir,
phishing. Yeah, sorry.
sir, I just want to know in what situations is a hacker uses the Trojans and the worms? I mean, just taken, can you give an example situation, sir? And what is suitable at what situation?
Yeah. So say someone someone does not like some company. Basically, there is a rivalry between two companies. So like it usually does not happen. But say some hacker is working for a company and he wants to bring down his rival company. As I have mentioned that worms, what a worm does is it replicate itself and then consume the bandwidth of the computer, and it basically slow down the web servers. So as the worm will replicate. So basically, a worm is nothing but a malicious program and a file. So basically, it keeps replicating itself endlessly, and ultimately, it will end your all the drive space, all your storage space. So and it will start consuming all your RAM and the memory bandwidth. So once all of this starts happening, you cannot cater to your normal customers. So say if there is a company called XYZ. So if a worm is basically used to target that company XYZ, so it will bring all the servers and devices of that XYZ down. Now XYZ cannot serve its customers and its clients, right? Got it?
Yes, sir, understood. So
And
the worms will only do this web server overloading, and whereas if you wanted to have the whole access, we'll use Trojans, right, sir?
right. So, and that
Okay.
Trojan like all of these are used in almost the same way. Just what the difference lies in how they are, like how they are initiated basically. Only that is the difference. Like Trojan is basically initiated, hide, posing as a legitimate something useful, and it is not actually useful. But the a simple user might think that, okay, this is something which I need. This is a music file name is a malicious software. So that's a Trojan. So yeah, about phishing. So phishing is a devious technique which is employed by cyber criminals to lure unsuspecting users into providing sensitive information. So sensitive information such as usernames, passwords, or even credit card details. So it is like a digital version of the real world phishing, which I have shown in the picture. So the basic is a seemingly innocent request for your information, and the hook is the that steals your data. So how a typical user might think that, okay, this is something which I need. This is a music file name, like how a typical user corresponds from a how a typical basic popular social media platform. So this email might alarm you with a warning that there is an urgent issue with your account, and you need to perform some immediate attention, and you need to perform some immediate action because something is happening with your account. It then provides a convenient link for you to log in and rectify this supposed problem. So this is where the deception lies. So the deception lies in the fact that this email is not actually from your bank or your social media site at all. It is very cleverly crafted illusion. So like you know illusion, like in Hindi you say Maya. So basically it is a cleverly crafted illusion by a cyber criminal. The link embedded in the email does not lead you to the genuine website, but it leads you to a counterfeit website, illegitimate fake website, which is designed by the hacker to basically mimic the real website. So if you want to enter your login credentials there, they would fall directly into the hands of the adversary or the malicious actor, or which we are calling hacker. So phishing does not restrict itself to emails. It can also invade your digital life through various channels like social media messages, social media messages, text. So a significant example of a phishing attack unfolded in 2016. So what happened was hackers targeted the Democratic National Committee in the USA by sending phishing emails to its employees. So these emails were basically masquerading as Google security alerts, prompting users to change their passwords. And a few employees fell for this trap. They clicked on the link, then keyed in their passwords on a website which was not actually a Google website, but it looked as if it was a real Google website. So consequently, the hackers gained access to their email accounts. Legitimate entities like your bank or social media websites will definitely never ask for your password or other sensitive data in an email or a message. So pay attention to the email address of the sender. Phishing emails often come from addresses that closely resemble the genuine ones, but contain subtle errors, which you might notice if you look carefully. So, for example, an email might come from support@google.mail.com instead of the correct mail support@google.com. So you are seeing the difference that to some naive user who might not know. Uh, okay, wait, somebody sent some message. No, yeah, yeah. So to some naive user, these two email addresses basically make no difference. support@google.mail.com and support@google.com. So remember, never click on a link in a suspicious email or a message. Instead, access the website directly by typing the URL into your own browser. So in summary, phishing is a significant cybersecurity threat, but with awareness, vigilance, and careful online habits, we can considerably reduce our vulnerabilities to such attacks. So now let us discuss a cyber threat that mostly affects websites and online services. So this threat is called denial of service or DOS attack. So imagine you are at a shop and suddenly thousands of people rush in all at once. The shop becomes so crowded that real customers cannot get in. So DOS attack is actually something like this, but in our digital world. So in a DOS attack, a hacker sends so much traffic to a website or online service that it gets overloaded, overwhelmed. So it becomes so busy dealing with this fake traffic that it cannot handle the request from real users. So as a result, the website or service becomes slow or even stops working altogether. So an even more powerful type of DOS attack is called a distributed denial of service attack or DDoS. So in DDoS, the hacker uses many computers from all over the world to send traffic, making the attack more powerful and harder to stop. So to make a DDoS attack more powerful, hackers often use what we know as botnet. So a botnet is a network of computers that have been infected with malicious software without the knowledge of the owners. So these infected computers are bots, or the person who is controlling this network of infected computers or infected bots is often known as a bot master. So what this bot master does is he can instruct all the computers in the botnet to send traffic to a specific website at the same time. So this huge amount of traffic, what is it is going to do? So it is like this huge amount of traffic coming from various computers which are spread all across the world can make the DDoS attack very powerful and very difficult to stop. So think of the bot master as the conductor of an orchestra where each bot is an instrument. So the bot master can direct all the bots in the botnet to act at the same time, causing a loud noise that can overwhelm the targeted website's defenses. So this way, even computers belonging to innocent people can unknowingly become part of the cyber attack, which is why it is important to keep our computers secure and regularly updated if we want to reduce the risk of them becoming a part of the botnet. So in 2016, we have this company called Den. So the world witnessed one of the biggest DDoS attacks back then in 2016 to this company called Den. So what DIN does is DIN is a company which provides DNS services. So as you might have learned in your computer network courses in your previous years that what is DNS? DNS is domain name system. So DNS is basically like a phone book of the internet where you type in a website's name, say twitter.com, then the DNS translates this into the actual IP address of the server where the website twitter.com is located on the internet. So DIN is a critical part of how the internet works. So in October 2016, DIN was hit by a massive DDoS attack. So this attack was basically done through a botnet, as we discussed above, and using thousands of infected devices like home routers and webcams. So the in this, what happened was the attack sent so much traffic to DIN system that the DIN servers were overloaded. So what this mean? This means they could not process messages properly. And because of this, for many users, like thousands of users, it was like the websites of dense clients has disappeared from the internet. So users could not reach popular websites like Twitter, Netflix, and Reddit because their devices could not find where these websites were located on the internet. So it was one of the biggest DDoS attacks ever, and it disrupted large parts of the internet for several hours. So what this incident shows us all that how DDoS attacks can be damaging, and why is it so important to protect against DDoS attacks. So how can we defend ourselves against such attacks? So basically, businesses that run websites or online services, one way is to have a strong network infrastructure. So what this means is having enough capacity to handle high levels of traffic and advanced systems that can identify and block fake traffic. Another one's defense is redundancy, which basically means having backup systems. So if one of your system gets attacked and fails, then the backup system can take over, keeping the service running. So in conclusion, while DOS attacks are serious threats, we still can protect ourselves by building strong networks and having backup systems in place. So now let us talk about another variety of cyber threats, which we all know as spyware. So this form of threat lives up to its name in being particularly very stealthy. So spyware, as you all can understand from its name, operates in a manner very similar to a covert operation or a spy operation. So it basically takes pride on its ability to remain hidden, collecting valuable information which is not known to you. So spyware is a specific genre of software or not malware, which is notorious for its stealthy installation on your device. So basically, its intrusion typically occurs without your knowledge or informed consent. So once this unwelcome guest named spyware finds a home on your device, it promptly commences its mission, which is data collection. So this data can span a like this data can range from a wide range of information from say your browsing habits, including the websites you frequently visit, your browser history, to details about your online shopping habits, and more alarmingly, it can also track your keyboard inputs. So through tracking your keyboard inputs, it can gain access to your sensitive personal information, your personal credentials like usernames, passwords, and even your credit card details. So say if there is a spyware hidden inside your laptop and you are basically logged into some online banking website and filling in your credit card details. So since the spyware has access to your keyboard inputs, it can store all that information and send all this information back to the attacker who's controlling the spyware. So let us now dive into one historical example of a very popular spyware. So basically, the year 2005, there was a significant controversy in that year surrounding a particular strain of spyware, which is known as the Sony BMG copy protection rootkit. So what Sony did was that Sony was found by others to be embedding this spyware into their music CDs. Yeah. So okay. So consequently, what happened was any customer who was buying the Sony CDs and playing these CDs on the computer basically unknowingly invited the spyware into their own computer system. So this spyware was then programmed to send all the information about the user's activities back to Sony. So this was a huge uproar back in the day in 2005, where the users were basically duped not by your usual hacker, but a company as big as Sony into storing a spyware in their own personal devices. So the covert nature, like this stealthy nature of a spyware makes it very challenging, extremely challenging to even how to counter it, because you might not even know that there is a threat of spyware inside your own personal device. So spyware is basically designed to camouflage itself, and it can be very difficult to eradicate once it gets installed on your computer. But then the situation is actually not so grim, because there are measures actually which we can adopt to defend ourselves against spywares. So again, the first line of defense, similar to what we discussed earlier, is deploying an effective antivirus software, because most antivirus software are well equipped to identify and eliminate spyware, similar to how they handle viruses. Secondly, we should also be cautious about our downloading habits. It is very vital, very important that we should only download software which we trust, from websites which we trust. So extra vigilance is needed there when we are dealing with free software offerings, as most of the times the spyware comes bundled along with free software, which we download for, like free music, free movies, all of that. Then our third strategy might involve maintaining our software and operating system at their latest versions. So these updates are not just about the new features. They frequently incorporate and contain patches for security vulnerabilities that spyware could exploit to gain entry into our systems. So to conclude, while spyware is a very powerful cyber threat due to its stealthy and harmful nature, we are not so powerless. So a combination of regular updates, then strategic use of antivirus software can provide a good enough defense against such kind of threats. But then we must again remember that in the world of cybersecurity, what matters is awareness, knowledge, and proactive defense, because these are our most powerful weapons. Yeah, so now let's talk about the cyber threat which we know as man in the middle or MITM attacks. So this attack is basically kind of like an eavesdropping attack. So imagine you are having a private conversation with your friend. Suddenly, without your knowledge, a third person enters, and he's not only listening to your conversation but also potentially intervening and altering the dialogue, or maybe impersonating your friend. So basically this scenario is, when translated to our digital world, it is what a man in the middle attack looks like. So when it comes to the digital world, MITM attack occurs when a hacker manages to insert themselves in the communication path between your computer and the website or services which you are trying to access. So this unauthorized intrusion allows the hacker to observe and potentially interfere with the information which you are transmitting and receiving across the computer network. So this kind of cyber attack is like, it is not just in theory, it regularly happens in the real world every year or almost every few months. For example, say in 2013, basically users of a very popular email service in Iran were targeted by a very complex man in the middle attack. So what happened there was, cyber criminals basically they used forged security certificates to deceive the users browsers into believing that they have a secure connection to the email service. So when I am saying that cyber criminals used forged security certificates, what do you understand? So as you might have read about or studied in your previous computer network courses, how does a usual HTTPS connection take place? Whenever you send some HTTPS request to a website's browsers or a web server, so for the connection to, because the HTTPS connection is over the TLS SLS layer, so for the connection to get established, you need the website server and your browser need to exchange security certificates to validate each other's identity. So this is where the like how this attack happened way back in 2013. So cyber criminals basically use forged security certificates to deceive the users browsers into believing that they have a secure connection to the email service. So this basically Yeah. So to summarize, man in the middle attacks, they can be very powerful and very damaging for our systems, but they can be mitigated. So how they can be mitigated? By using secure connections like HTTPS, being mindful of the risk of the free public Wi-Fi networks, and maintaining general awareness of the usual cybersecurity practices. That through all of these things, we can basically guard ourselves against such man in the middle attacks. Yeah, so now let us talk about another cyber threat which affects the websites and their databases. So this attack is basically called a SQL injection. SQL, or basically structured query language, is a type of language used to communicate with databases. So in a SQL injection attack, a hacker uses a website's input forms to send harmful SQL commands to the website's database. So say if the website is not properly secured, then these commands can view, modify, or even delete the data across the website. Now, let us consider an example to illustrate how the usual SQL injection attack works. So say we have a website which has a login form where we have to enter a username and a password. So normally when we enter our username, the website creates a SQL command like this: select star from users. So star means all, everything. So select everything from users. So users is basically a table. So where username equals to your username. So the username is a basically a placeholder where the username which you inputs in the login forms will go. And basically this command checks if the username you entered is in the users table of the database. So now imagine you enter something different as your username. So say you enter admin, then you enter some malicious SQL injection like delete from users using double hyphens. So basically what it does is the website will create a SQL command like select all from users where username equals to admin and then delete from users. So this command will not only check for the username admin, but it will also delete all the data from the users table. So I don't know if you have uh, like you have understood SQL in your previous courses. Some of you might have. So in a SQL, the double hyphens or double dashes at the end, basically it tells the database to ignore everything that comes after it. So it comments everything that comes afterwards. So if the website is not properly secured, then this command will run and like all of your user data can get deleted. So example of a real world SQL injection attack is in the year 2008 when there was a attack known as Hardline Payment Systems attack. So basically, Heartland Payment Systems was a US-based payment processing company. So what hackers did back then was they used a SQL injection to install spyware, the same spyware which we discussed in our last slide. So the hackers used SQL injection to install spyware on the company's network, and then they stole all the data from the company, which was more than 100 million credit cards. So now you see how tough it's gonna be to defend against such kind of SQL injection attacks. So the most important defense is for such SQL injection attacks is for websites to sanitize their inputs. So by this, what I mean is that websites should start checking and cleaning any data which is entered by the users before using it as a SQL command. So websites can also use techniques like prepared statements, and we have something called parameterized queries, which basically treat the input as data and not executable code. So in conclusion, SQL injection is a very serious threat, but by following good security practices, or say the best security practices, we can protect ourselves, our websites, our databases from such kind of attacks. So now let us look at another SQL injection attack during a login attempt. So say when you are logging into a website. So basically I have this example, I have put it on the screen. You can also check it from there. So when you are logging into a website, you can enter your username and a password. So behind the scenes, the website uses a SQL query to check if the username and password you entered match any in its database, right? So this query might look something like the normal SQL query, which you can see right here on the screen. So say this select star from users where username equals to user underscore input underscore username and password equals to user underscore input underscore password. So here basically user input username and user input password are nothing but placeholders for the username and password that the user will enter through the login form in the particular website. So now imagine a situation where an attacker or a hacker enters a username in such a way that it changes the SQL query. For example, say the attacker enters this username, Ajay Sigiredi, semicolon, double hyphens. So as basically it is entered in the username field and then it enters anything for the password field. So the SQL query now becomes the SQL query which is being executed at the backend by the website server is select star from users where username equals to Ajay Sigiredi double hyphen and password equals to anything. So as I told you that in SQL the double hyphen, the double dash which you are seeing is a comment symbol. So like in Python for comment you are using hash symbol. So in C++ you are using percentage sign, then dollar signal in the usual Linux commands and all. So basically in SQL, the double hyphen is a comment symbol. Everything after double hyphen is ignored. So the password part is basically ignored completely. So this means that the attacker is telling the database to look for a username named Ajay Sigiredi without any access to that user's account and without even needing the correct password. So this is a very simplified example of how SQL injection attacks work in day-to-day lives and how they can manipulate SQL queries to gain unauthorized access to your data. So this is why it is very crucial to sanitize the user inputs and employ other security measures in your applications, right?
Sir, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, actually, I didn't understand the only thing that when the hacker can give that username and without passing the correct password, how can it be, I mean,
Yeah,
access to
so see, there is a website. Whenever you say Google, there is a Google form. But like I'm just giving you an example because Google form is very secure. So
Yes, sir.
what we have is two fields: username, enter field, then password field. So the user is seeing only those things. So when the user enters the username and password, so his work is over there. But how that is processed by the web server, what happens in the backend is that the from that field of username the website server basically it accepts that input and then it puts that input in this field user input username and then it puts the password whatever the user has entered in that field here user into this. So this is a SQL query which is being run at the backend, and so here basically the website already has a database of legitimate users, and basically there is a database in which there are two columns. Say one column is of usernames, one column is of passwords, and databases, and the username is mapped to the correct appropriate password, right? So this is what is happening in the backend, and the website is using this SQL query to check if the user who is logging in is authenticated, if the credentials are already in the database of the website's list of legitimate users. But here when the attacker is basically inputting this username, then after this attacker is using a semicolon and double hyphen, so the website will take this entire thing. The website will think that this entire thing is the username because the user, which in this case is the hacker, so he is entering this Ajay Sigiredi semicolon double hyphen as the username. But when the website processes it in the backend, so this thing is like this placed over here, right? So in the SQL, what I just said is double hyphen. This double dashes basically these comments, everything which comes afterward. So the basically website is executing this SQL query. But once the hacker inputs such kind of username, so this double dash basically comments out the query to relate the username with the password. So the website cannot match the username against the password. You got it now, or should I repeat it?
Yes, sir, understood.
Okay. So yeah, so let us now focus our attention towards another very significant cyber threat, which we specifically which the basically this attack specifically targets websites and the users of that particular websites. So SSS attack. So in such cross-site scripting attacks, what happens is basically a particularly type of cyber threat. Like in this, basically there is a hacker who cunningly injects a malicious code into your website. So this is usually achieved through sections of the website that allows users to input data. For example, say again a input form. So think of areas like input forms where you input your details or credentials, or say comment sections where you type your comments in any social media website. So this malicious code remains hidden in the website. So basically, when unsuspecting users visit the website, so the harmful code is basically loaded onto their computers and executed, and the user might not even suspect anything, something bad has happened to him at that particular moment. So let us bring this concept closer to our everyday experiences. So for example, consider a typical social networking site where you can post status updates or share your thoughts. So in a XSS attack, basically a hacker would post a status update that very cleverly, very stealthily includes a piece of say malicious JavaScript code. So this JavaScript code, instead of displaying an innocent status, is programmed to perform harmful actions. For example, the JavaScript code might instruct the user's browser to send the user's cookies to the hacker. So the cookies can often like at times contain very sensitive information such as session IDs. So with these session IDs, a hacker can basically impersonate the user on the website, gaining unauthorized access to their profile and potentially their personal information. So real life example of cross-site scripting attack happened way back in 2013 when a hacker exploited XSS vulnerability in the very popular social networking site, which we all know as Facebook. So the attacker basically what he did was posted JavaScript code in the comment section of a post, and anyone who viewed the comment unknowingly executed the harmful code on their own browser. So this was how millions of users were targeted way back then. Then how do like what do we do to save ourselves against such XSS attacks, and how do we save our websites? So basically the protection against such cross-site scripting attacks basically it requires a collaborative effort from the users as well as the owners of the website. So what the website owners have to do, they have to bear the responsibility of ensuring that the input from users is sanitized and thoroughly checked. So when I'm saying sanitized, what do you guys understand? So like in our way of inputting a user's data, because whatever the user is filling detail in the log, the website is directly using that information and putting it in the SQL query and executing this. So this is not a very good way of security practice. So the website should not directly inject the details which the user is basically filling in the form, and directly the website should not directly inject it into a SQL query. Rather, it should basically accept it as in a database, and then go across it, verify it if it is safe, and then only inject it inside a SQL query. So this is what I mean when I am using the term sanitization in terms of data input. So yeah, so website owners should basically they should bear the responsibility of ensuring that the inputs from users is thoroughly checked or sanitized, and that any data which is displayed on the site is properly encoded to prevent scripts from being executed. In simple terms, let me say, like, they must like the website owners must make sure that no harmful code is hiding within the legitimate content. So that's what the website owners are needed to do. Then as users, what we can do? So as users, we can implement a variety of safety measures. So say we can keep our web browsers updated. So that is a very crucial step in all of this, because as many updates because the new updates which are coming to the browser, basically they include security enhancements, security patches, etc. So what else we can do? We can disable JavaScript or even add security plugins into our browsers. So these plugins are basically designed to detect and block potential cross-site scripting attacks. So let me conclude that such attacks, XSS attacks, are very powerful and they have huge potential for severe data breaches. But still, they are like, it's not like we cannot beat them. So by practicing strong security habits and staying careful, vigilant, we can like significantly reduce the damage and protect ourselves against such kind of attacks. So now known as cross-site request forgery, or in short, we might even call it CSRF attacks. So the essence of a CRSF attack is basically deception, and it involves exploiting the identity and privileges of an unsuspecting victim to carry out a malicious action without their knowledge. So to truly understand the concept of this CSRF attack, we should consider this following scenario. So say you are logged into your bank's website and you are checking your account details, or may say you are scheduling a payment. So you decide to take a break and then leave the bank's website open on your own browser. Then you visit a different website, which say you visit a different website, which is giving you an exciting offer like say, hey, here is a link. Why don't you click it for if you want to get a free iPhone? So such kind of offer looks extremely wonderful. And despite our little doubt which we have, some of us think, but then again, it is a malicious link. So we like when we click on such links, we do not realize that such innocent looking links might say it might be a kind of like a Trojan horse, which we discussed earlier. Like from the top, it might look innocent, but inside it, we don't know what is running behind it and what malicious code the link contains. So basically, the link sends a malicious request to our bank's website to transfer some money from our account to that account which is controlled by the hacker. And since a session is on the session is active, the website does not know that this is some hacker. The website thinks that okay, this is the legitimate one because just a few minutes back he has logged in and he has provided the right credentials to log in into his account. So once the website is deceived into thinking this, then the transaction request which is coming from you, which is not actually coming from you, which is coming from the Trojan horse which was inserted by the hacker once you clicked on that malicious link on that other website. So the basically this transaction request is coming from you. The website thinks that it is coming from you. The and website thinks that it is the legitimate user, and it duly carries out all the transaction. It sends all the money from your account to the hacker's account. So one of the widely reported example of one such CSRF attack was way back in 2007, which involved a very famous social networking platform known as MySpace. So MySpace was the Instagram in early 2000. Like there was no other social media website which was called MySpace. It was the best. It was way before Orkut came into the world. But MySpace was not much popular in India, but like it was still across the world. It was the most popular social media website way back then. So in what happened was to enter people's profiles to declare that they were fans of a particular and like absolutely no knowledge that this was happening to them. So basically a cross-site this request forgery attack happened. Sorry, let me check the connection. Yeah. So how can we prepare our digital platforms against such cross-site request forgery attacks? So say website developers have to develop certain kind of defensive strategies. So one of the most common defensive strategy is the usage of a unique token for every session, which is known as a synchronizer token pattern. So this what this token does is this token is linked to the user session and is scrutinized with every sensitive request. If the token is missing or does not match the request, therefore it might stop the CSRF attack from happening. So another such defense mechanism against the CSRF attack is the adoption of which we call as the same site cookie attribute. So basically what this does is the server side attribute prevents the cookie from being dispatched, from being sent with cross-site requests. So this basically offers very strong protection against the CSRF attacks. So in conclusion, CSRF attack basically a considerable threat to all of us in the world of cybersecurity, but still they are not invincible. It's not like you cannot do anything against them. So with good amount of security measures in place, these attacks can be successfully stopped. So moving forward, it's very important to remember that with all our above discussion, which we have discussed till now about the popular cyber attacks, we have only just scratched the surface. There are numerous types of cyber attacks still remaining, each with their unique tactics and objectives. So if you find this subject or this field of cybersecurity interesting and you want to explore these topics in your own, so explore these topics in your own. Okay, so let us talk like idea of what other kind of attacks we have left. So you might go explore on your own such kind of attacks. So firstly, let us consider watering hole attacks. So what is watering hole attack? So it is a strategic form of attack where the hacker basically patiently observes the common websites which is visited by a target group. So say the target groups, say you are working, say you are all of you are working for a particular bank, say HDFC Bank. So the hacker wants to target the employees of HDFC Bank. So the basically what the hacker does is he patiently observes the common websites which is visited by the HDFC employees. So after, because the website of HDFC might be pretty strong, which the hacker cannot directly attack. So instead of directly attacking, he's indirectly attacking you by basically making sure which other website all of you are accessing, and then he might find a loophole or a vulnerability to exploit in that particular website, third party website. So after identifying these watering holes, so basically this third party website we are calling as watering hole in this particular attack. So after identifying these watering holes, the hacker will then infest such websites with malicious codes. So once the unsuspecting users of that particular organizations visit such now uncompromised websites, their computers also in turn become infected. So this was the water hole attack. Then another such attack is credential reuse attack. So basically what happens is in this type of attack, it is a very common, like these kind of attacks are still very common, but then risky also, because what happens is in a credential reuse attack, the cyber criminals obtain login details, your login credentials from one source. Say a data breach happened. Say you are using Amazon.com for your shopping. So you are entering your username, you are entering your password. Then a data breach happens, and the all the database of the users of using the Amazon website basically it get leaked on the public internet, and now the attacker has direct access to such database. So in a credential reuse attack, he will steal your username, your password from Amazon.com, and then try these credentials on other platforms, say on the banking websites, on the social media web accounts like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So in many of the cases, the normal users have this tendency of using the same username and same password across variety of websites. So this is what a credential reuse attack looks like, because one website gets at there is a privacy public breach of one particular website. The user can then use that database and use them in other websites, and in many cases that works. So then we have eavesdropping attacks. So basically kind of similar to MITM attacks, but not exactly similar. The man in the middle attack. So imagine a secret conversation which is being secret conversation which being held between you and someone else, but there is a third party which is listening to all your conversation. So in such attack, cyber criminal, what he does is he intercept and in some cases even alter the communication between the two parties without the knowledge of the parties. So this part was very important here, which basically differentiated from the man in the middle attack. So this interception can lead to severe data breaches and loss of privacy, loss of confidentiality. So what is the key difference between eavesdropping and man in the middle attack? uh, the the main difference basically lies in the level of involvement of the attacker. So basically eavesdropping is passive listening, while a man in the middle attack is an active process of intercepting communication. So in eavesdropping, the attacker does nothing else. He just listens to your conversation. He just keeps stealing all your credentials, which is the on the computer network. But he does not do anything to stop your communication from happening. But in a man in the middle attack, he might change. He might alter your communication, which is happening. So, lastly speaking, uh, like as we all can see in recent times that the age of rapid technological advancement, we are beginning to seeing AI powered cyber attacks. So with the innovation, with the advent of ML and AI, so cyber attackers now basically they have a new tool in their arsenal. So what hackers are doing is now they are leveraging AI to bypass security measures more effectively or craft highly convincing phishing emails that are very difficult and extremely difficult to distinguish from legitimate ones. So earlier this was not the case, but as the technology is progressing, as the technology is advancing, so the with every pros, the cons are also coming hand in hand. So now the cyber criminals are basically using AI in their own benefit. So what we must remember that the landscape of the internet is continuously changing. It is ever evolving. It is very dynamic. And yes, the will continue to emerge on a daily basis. So it is very important for all of us to stay updated, informed, and like use proactive preventive measures, which through which we can like significantly improve our defenses against such kind of cyber attacks. Yeah. So in today's session, we have basically dived into the vast field of cybersecurity threats, the cybersecurity attacks. So we have spoken about how cyber criminals might attempt to penetrate our systems, how they might get their hands on our valuable data, or even create chaos in our online operations. Now, all of this sounds a little bit scary, little bit daunting, but let me assure you that we are not exactly defenseless. So the digital world has a variety of strategies in the form of structured plans and established systems, and that established systems which basically are used as a guide on how to shield ourselves against such kind of cyber attacks. But we will stop here for the day as we have already discussed enough, and I do not want you guys to feel overwhelmed in the first class itself. So we will be meeting again tomorrow for our next lecture, where we will dive into some of the critical models, which is basically used by the professionals worldwide to basically strengthen their cybersecurity capabilities. So you can think of these models as maps, basically guiding us on our path to secure our systems and networks from a barrage of threats. So the first cybersecurity map, which we will discuss tomorrow, is the NIST. So NIST is basically an abbreviation for the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and this is an organization which is run by the USA government, and they have created an extensively recognized framework which imparts the best secure practices, best guidelines, and standards to manage cybersecurity risk in our digital world. And then after next, we will discuss the MITRE attack framework. So this is like a globally attack. So basically, this is like a say library of adversary attacks and tactics and techniques. So the collection of the knowledge, uh, which is basically served to us in this MITRE attack framework, it is used as the groundwork for like crafting specific threat models and various sectors. It might be private, it might be governmental, or say medical, or any cybersecurity product related community. Then after MITRE attack framework, we will be discussing about FedRAMP. So FedRAMP is a program which is run across the USA government that promotes the adoption of secure cloud services. So this initiative basically helps government agencies transition from old and vulnerable IT systems to secure and cost effective and mission enabling cloud-based IT, right? So I realize that like some of these topics might sound a bit complex at this point, but please do not get scared again. So we will be making sure that we understand how each of these frameworks basically fortifies our defenses in cybersecurity. And just I want to make a case why it is important for us to learn all of these frameworks and strategies, because like mastering these frameworks does not just make our systems more secure, it also opens up a world of professional opportunities as well. So say having a deep understanding of such systems is very useful and a great asset in the job market. So a strong like say if you have a strong foundation in these areas, so it becomes very important for building a successful career in cybersecurity, because the employers are very actively seeking professionals who can navigate these models and apply them to their systems. So not only are these lessons important for cybersecurity of our systems, they are extremely crucial for your own personal career growth. Like I can share my personal experience while hunting for job in the cybersecurity field. Almost every second job has this in the list of requirements, list of what was needed from the candidate. So the NIST and MITRE ATT&CK frameworks are very extremely essential, and FedRAMP is even more advanced topic, but it is usually not asked from a fresher in a cybersecurity role. Yeah, so we should remember that the journey for this mastering cybersecurity is not a sprint, actually it is a marathon. But we will in the upcoming classes learn about the strategies step by step, and that's how we will go about it. So right, any questions, anyone? If you might have some questions, then you can ask tomorrow, because I have to leave right now.
Yes, sir. No questions. Thank you.
Okay, have a good
Sir,
day,
if
everyone.
possible, could you
Yeah.
please share this PPT? Sir,
Yeah, sure. I will do it after taking the tomorrow session. I will share this PPT,
yes, sir.
because I will continue tomorrow session in the same PPT.
Okay, sir.
Okay, bye.